S Word, featuring Will Gavin and Master Tess Fassian. And a squad of big-name contributors. The S Word from talkSPORT.
Well, very good afternoon and welcome to the S Word from talkSPORT, the talkSPORT S Word YouTube channel. I'm Will Gavin, Master Tess Fatsian alongside me, and Aston Villa are the champions of Europe.
Looky here, who decided to come back in the studio after a 2-day hiatus.
Yeah, after your news became yesterday's fish and chip wrapping or whatever it is that they say, we're back, baby, I'm back, and we're here to talk all about Aston Villa winning the Europa League. Unai Emery, five-time champion. Unai Emery, if Arsenal had kept him, they'd have won a title sooner. That's what I'm saying. We are talking all about Villa today because that is the big story in town.
Not even a minute in already. I'm taking jabs and shots. I missed you, buddy.
Yeah, you too. You too. We have got a cracking show coming up for you today on the S Word because we will be talking all about Aston Villa's triumph out in Istanbul. West Ham fans have called off planned board protests ahead of their final game of the season. Dan Lawless will join us from West Ham Way TV. Brian T. Smith is here to talk US stuff. The Guardian's Pablo Maura on this wild story that the MLS is going to try and change the way that football works.
Once again, Americans innovating the game, not getting any credit for it, but coming up with brilliant ideas, as they are today.
And we'll have the former USMNT midfielder Stu Holden on the show, all coming up here on the S Word. Nice to be back.
It's great to have you back. Yeah. I mean,
you guys held it down the last days. Max Scott did a sensational job.
Tremendous.
Absolutely no issue with that whatsoever. But I'm back in the house, ready to talk about all the things you said wrong in the last 2 days. And
you've been taking notes.
Extensive notes.
Good. You're more informed now. You feel better. You're more prepared.
More prepared than ever to take you down. I don't mean that, but look, we do have
Yes, you do.
Genuinely a great show ahead of us. Also, in addition to all that other stuff, I'm going to pick my England squad ahead of tomorrow morning's announcement. 9:45, I believe. Tomorrow morning, England will announce their squad for the 2026 World Cup. It comes off the back of Germany being announced in the last 24 hours. We obviously had that crazy Brazil announcement this week. So I'll do my England squad, the 26 I'd like to see taken to the World Cup. We'll debate and discuss that ahead of tomorrow's announcement, plus all those brilliant guests to come on. But let's start off with what a night it was for Aston Villa in Istanbul, making light work of Freiburg, who handed Unai Emery a fifth European title, joining Trapattoni, Carlo Ancelotti and Jose Mourinho. He had 3 with Sevilla, he had 1 with Villarreal, and now Aston Villa are the champions of Europe.
One of the biggest nights in Aston Villa's proud history.
Of course, my dream when I arrived here was play Europe, play for trophies.
Wide-footed ball flicked across the edge of the penalty area. Tielemans! What a goal!
Huge goal on the night that is for Villa.
This group of players now, Champions League football next season. This manager, he won't just be happy with one trophy.
Tielemans, McGinn, Buendia! Oh, Starling grading their name on the trophy now!
The campaign we did this season in Europa League, it was fantastic.
What a time to get that second one as well. Stunning end to the half from Villa.
And achieving this one is something make us so happy, so proud of everything we are working.
You know, there's Villa fans here tonight, Jim, that have never seen their team win a trophy. Well, that all changes right now.
Buendia, left-hand side of the penalty area. Low ball in! There's number 3! Morgan Rogers!
What a performance! What a manager! What a support!
John McGinn has taken the cup and lifted it into the Turkish night. And the name on the trophy is Aston Villa.
30 years since their last major trophy, 44 years since they were the champions of Europe. Aston Villa have returned to the mountaintop, and just 7 years since they were languishing in mid-table in the Championship. Unai Emery claims a 5th European title, well, only 6 years himself after being cast out of North London. Delighted to say that Master Tess Fatsian now has to admit that Unai Emery is the best manager in the Premier League.
The best manager in the Premier League? Wasn't he trying to leave the Premier League 2 weeks ago?
I'm having a bit of fun with you, but Unai Emery is very difficult. We will get into the wider implications of the Europa League and the Conference League, because there are huge conversations to be had about the English dominance in those leagues over the past 3-4 years. But first and foremost, what a night for those Villa fans. You talked so eloquently and brilliantly about what it was like as an Arsenal fan to be on the streets of North London. Istanbul was claret and blue last night, and for those fans who travelled, for those fans who were loving it on the streets of Birmingham, who are going to be at their parade today, what a night for those fans beyond anything else.
An incredible night, and I've been fortunate enough to know quite a bit of Villa fans, for better or for worse. they definitely will remind you of the Buendia goal at the death against Arsenal, but again, the talent and the quality and their ability to make the most of what was a disappointing end to last season when they thought they could have qualified for Champions League and had an unfortunate refereeing error go against them that probably costed them the chance to play in Champions League this season. But to go through the Europa League, to finish the season, capping it off with the European trophy and qualifying for Champions League on top of that, it shows the beautiful redemption arc of this entire story, where it did not just end on that final match day last year. It came with a moment that they will now cherish for the rest of their lives with their friends and their family members. And seeing all of my friends, I've done a lot of work with Whisper Productions on some esports stuff with Madden, and my producer there, Kerry is his name, big Villa fan. When Villa beat Arsenal, we were doing a shoot the next week. Mm-hmm. And all I kept hearing in my voice, like, all right, Master, 5 minutes till the show starts. Up the Villa. He's doing the Buendia goal call. And, seeing him posting and coming to tears and emotionally soaking it all in, I think that's what it's all about. So I'm really happy for them. I'm really happy for Villa fans. I'm glad they get to enjoy and experience this moment because it's been a long time coming.
Well, I went to university in Leicester, and my first day turning up in halls, I walked into the kitchen, and I was met with, and I cannot exaggerate enough here, a wall of Brummie. Just, there were 8 or 9 people in my kitchen, parents and children of guys my age, and all of them had these thick Brummie accents, and all of them were Villa fans. And throughout university, I lived with 3 or 4 Villa fans the entire time I was there. I had no connection to the club whatsoever prior to that, but it did build a massive soft spot for me for them. And they are a team who, I remember watching them with Steve Bruce in the Championship at Fulham when they had that late playoff push. I remember watching that Dean Smith team that managed to get from mid-table to that late playoff push to going and winning those playoffs. And yeah, I think Dean Smith did a brilliant job with that team, but Unai Emery takes over 4 years ago, and of that squad that started last night, 7 of the 11 were on that team that were facing relegation when Unai Emery took over. And you just look at what he's managed to achieve over those past 4 or 5 years now at Aston Villa, between finishing 7th, 4th, 6th, and now likely top 4 again, 5th at worst, depending on just how much they party between now and that game on Sunday.
Parade's tonight.
I don't know
if they can really care about the game.
Real bold. He bought them Champions League football. They nearly knocked PSG out of the Champions League. That can't be ignored. They get to the semi-finals of the Conference League and now win a Europa League. Unai Emery, by the way, has coached 31 Europa League knockout ties in the last 13 years and won 30 of them. Like, he knows how to win in this competition. And I thought, we'll debate the gulf between the English teams and the teams they faced shortly, but he set that team up perfectly last night. Freiburg were not there on merit. This kind of pat on the head nonsense that people want to give them and say, it was a fairy tale, they were there, they don't have the money. They were a good football team who press, who work incredibly hard, who have good direct attacking talent.
Set piece wizards. They absolutely deserve to be there.
Unai Emery, it might not be the sexiest football in the world. The goals were brilliant, of course, but the way he set up the midfield, the way he had Victor Lindelof playing in that kind of holding role and then dropping into the back 3 so that the full-backs could push forward, and that really pinned Freiburg back. Like, their whole approach to the game was just absolutely spot on. And I have to apologise for questioning his approach a few weeks ago when they faced Tottenham, and me saying, like, you can focus all on the Europa League as much as you want, but you need a team who are in form. And apparently not. Unai Emery knew what he was doing. He set them up perfectly last night, and they were massively deserving winners.
Is that we're not even 10 minutes in, and am I hearing Master, you were right? Is that what we come to?
There's plenty of Master, you were wrong coming up.
But you're absolutely right about Unai Emery, and I think it's more of an assessment of Spanish managers, truth be told. We've seen it time and time again. La Liga has been tremendous in these kind of cup competitions and tournaments, being able to effectively come up with a brilliant strategy over 2-leg fixtures or a one-off final in these tournaments. And that's why time and time again, La Liga has done a tremendous amount of success in European football, but also in the Europa League.
Allow me to hand you some flowers in this moment, because we won't mention Arsenal a huge amount in this show, but the sensational achievement for Mikel Arteta this weekend. Unai Emery goes and wins the Europa League last night. Andoni Iraola gets his team into the Europe for the first time in their history. They're all from within 30 miles of one another in the Basque Country. Like, that is a footballing factory being born there in North Spain, and incredible to see that kind of coaching tree almost that is being sprouted out, to use that Americanism. And yeah, I mean,
you can throw Xabi Alonso in there as well. He comes from that area in Basque Country as well. I've been up there before. I've seen what this sport means to them and how they will fine comb through every single detail possible. And you can see it in the way that Unai Emery leads his team. He's been criticized in the past for being too calculated, providing too much information for his players and overcomplicating the game. But that is the way that Basque Country views it. Arteta does the same thing. Areola, you can question if it's too much information, but you can never question that they are not prepared for the situation. And I think that's what you get when you bring on a manager from the Basque Country, that they will always make sure that they are not, you may be able to be more physical with them, you may be able to be faster than them, but you will not be able to outsmart them throughout a 90-minute fixture. And it's brilliant to see.
And as much as Unai Emery set them up brilliantly tactically, let's give a shout out to some of those players on the field, because, and again, okay, a second master, you were right, in a short connection of time. Emi Buendia is a guy who 12 months ago was on the outskirts of this squad, was looking to move on. He was looking for a transfer. They were looking to sell him, and he stayed and he fought for his place. And I've been a guy who's knocked Emi Buendia. I think that in the wrong system, which I think he was playing in previously, he is a little too slow. He is not direct enough. But last night, he was perfect for how they were set up. He scored huge goals this season against some absolutely massive teams in massive, massive games. And he was brilliant again last night. Not just the goal, but absolutely instrumental in what they did. Morgan Rogers, you could argue, should be starting the first game for England in the World Cup. He's been that good in the big games. I know he had a lull for a few weeks. John McGinn, I mean,
that's your boy. You love you some John McGinn.
You want to talk about a guy that went down with them to the Championship. He cost them £2.5 million. He stayed with them in the Championship. He captained this team. He brought them back up, and now he gets to be the guy to hold aloft a Europa League trophy. I mean, yeah, John McGinn. They're talking about build a statue to Unai Emery. Build a statue to John McGinn outside Villa Park. That man, forget John Terry, captain, leader, legend. That's John McGinn for this Villa team. Unbelievable from him. And Pau Torres was sensational last night. Ezri Konsa was just as solid as a rock. I mean, Ollie Watkins is a guy who leads the line so well and sets up perfectly in their formation. I just thought they were
Yuri
across
Tielemans.
the board brilliant.
I've talked a lot about Yuri Tielemans and Buendia and how different this team looks when they're not in the lineup and the injuries that they had. And you saw it immediately in that first half. Tielemans scoring the goal, which was a brilliant goal that he scored. And then we thought that would be perhaps the best goal that we would see of the night. And then Buendia just scores a curler. That was so beautiful, wasn't it? Right before halftime. And at that point, you kind of figure, again, not to write Freiburg off, I did my best to give them every single chance and opportunity to become the David of this Goliath situation. But once Buendia scored right before halftime, we knew this was over. And
I want to say we don't, but it did feel it with the second goal. And by the way, is there almost nothing more beautiful in football? And maybe only second to a really great headed goal. Like, I love when a player rises up and is like a good 3 foot above everyone else. I mean, let's give it out to the Villa set piece coach and their set pieces last night. Sensational stuff. It just turns out that a set piece coach is what your team needed the whole time. There's something beautiful about beautiful headed goal, but when somebody gets that little moment of space and you see it opens out in front of them and they curl that effort and it goes, not just does it go beyond the reach of the keeper, but does that thing where it hits the side netting and curls around the inside of the goal because it's so beautifully placed. Oh, honestly, though, when that goes in, I'm not, directly connected to Aston Villa in any way, shape or form. I want to see the English teams other than Arsenal do well in Europe, but man, that was a thing of just absolute beauty.
It is beautiful. However,
why are you bringing the high down? What have I come in here yesterday and done this to Arsenal? What have I gone full Durham
I mean,
on
you were gone for 2 days, and that, you know, the 48-hour disappearance. I didn't think you were going to come back. And I'm not here to pour cold water on Aston Villa. Congratulations to their fans. I'm very happy for them. Congratulations to the club, the organization.
Feels like I hear a bucket filling up with cold water as he speaks.
They were very deserving of being Europa League champions. But UEFA has a Premier League problem with the Europa League and the Conference League. And the fact of the matter is, there is way too much money in terms of discrepancy from the clubs that qualify for Europa League compared to the teams that are from the Premier League and are not from the Premier League. To use this as an example, Aston Villa is in Deloitte's top 20 in terms of revenue. Their revenue is 450 million euros.
You love Deloitte's revenue thing, don't you?
Listen, everyone keeps talking about the game is gone, finances, all this different
yesterday
stuff.
was something to be excited about because Arsenal were number 1 on that list.
They were.
Now you're shooting down Villa because they're top 20.
It's different when you got a bunch of billionaires in the Premier League compared to what you're facing in the Europa League, which the whole purpose of the Europa League and even the Conference League in its 4th season was to democratize the opportunities for European glory to be passed around to other clubs, and it wouldn't be the same billionaire clubs competing in the Champions League. However, we're continuously seeing now these billionaire clubs infiltrating in Europa League and Conference League, and it's creating a sizable disadvantage where you might as well, before the tournament even starts, just go ahead and hand the trophy to Villa. Or go ahead and hand the trophy to Crystal Palace. Make the final...
The level of disrespect there is astonishing.
Make the cup final Forest versus Villa, because at that point you're just...
All the talk about what European football does to Premier League teams when they join it, when they don't have the depth of squads. Like, this idea that...
They don't have the depth of squads?
Just because they've got lots of money because they're in the Premier League, they still have to go under PSR rules, soon to be ECR rules. They still have to hit financial fair play.
They make more money.
Like Aston Villa last summer spent 37 million euros. Freiburg spent 32 million euros. Like, that is not a disparate situation. And they've they built
Freiburg's revenue is 162.8 million euros. That is 36% of what Villa makes. So the difference is there's a wide gap when you're talking about PSR spending 85% of the revenue and the money you bring in. They're already at a significant disadvantage because the Premier League makes so much money from international TV rights that it dwarfs what some leagues champions make for domestically where they play.
So the opportunity for these teams that have had 30 years in the doldrums, that were in the second tier just 7 years ago, that, you know, we want to talk about and celebrate their fans and talk about what a great moment is for them, but their opportunity is too great because they happen to be in the richest league. They are the at best 4th, 5th, 6th biggest team in the Premier League, and realistically they have been above their skis for the last 3 or 4 years thanks to what Unai Emery has done there. This is them... When Chelsea won the Conference League, I understand that is a joke, and that there maybe needs to be some kind of, you can't qualify for the Conference League if you've been in the Champions League in the last 2 years, or whatever that looks like. Like, there can be an argument.
Villa's 14th in revenue in Europe.
But that doesn't...
This is not a fair... They are not David. They are Goliath.
But they are
Goliath.
But they are a David compared to what they have to compete with week
That's
in,
the Premier League. That's
week
a whole
out.
different competition.
And they are still a team who have not seen a trophy for 30 years. And it completely denigrates what they've managed to achieve, what those players on the field have managed to do. So many of them involved in a relegation battle only 4 years ago.
And I'm not just...
And they've gone out and they've won a huge trophy. And now it's saying, yeah, but it wasn't fair because they
made a mockery of the group stage in the Swiss model because they go in Thursdays during the group stage, rotating 7 or 8 players.
But that's the UEFA problem. What, like,
that's
the Premier League? As an American, as someone who, you know, capitalism, America, like, as the teams that earn the most
we also
money
have caps.
have the
We
chance
also
to
have
do
salary
it.
caps. We also have...
Yeah, but that's because you've got self-contained leagues with no relegation and no, like...
Here's my thing. UEFA, if you are listening, which I'm sure you are, there's 2 things I would do to help address this, because at the end of the day, the ratings now with the Swiss model have tanked for the Europa League and Conference League, so you're not getting better viewership as a result of it, and you're pretty much shoehorning in at least one Premier League team into the final, potentially 2, as we saw last year.
Yeah, but, okay, you're annoyed now it's a Premier League team getting shoehorned in, but for years, what we were shoehorning into a Europa League final was a team that would drop out of the Champions League. I'd much rather Freiburg or Rayo Vallecano get to a final and get beat by a Premier League team than we just see 2 teams who fell out of the group stage of the Champions League, who didn't even want to be in that competition,
the Swiss model is fine.
It's a huge part of why the TV figures have gone down. This is because those big teams haven't appeared in the competition.
This is how you solve it. This is how you solve the problem. There needs to be a wage cap, because the discrepancy in the wages of what Villa is able to field out there compared to what Freiburg is able to field out there is completely disproportionate. And for a country that was literally anti-Super League has become the Super League of Europe. And other countries and other nations need to step up and speak about this, because you are not going to see any other European glory outside of England in Europa or Conference League moving forward unless you have a wage cap that allows a multiple of whatever the average median wages or salaries or even the value of clubs and squads is. If you're going to, for instance, last year, Chelsea, Cole Palmer didn't play at all in the group stage. All of a sudden, he wants to show up in the knockout stage. Wasn't even on the roster. If Cole Palmer is not on the roster to start off with, he cannot participate in the knockout stage.
I don't hate that, right? I don't hate that at all. But I think overall, unless you can put a wage cap in domestically as well, you're never going to have teams who will buy into that, because you are always going to be focused first and foremost on being competitive in the Premier League because of the revenue, because of the money that it brings in. And therefore, I think all you're doing is taking teams which are big, who
you don't think the other teams are competing in domestic leagues,
who are going to be going through to the latter stages, who are amongst the biggest teams in Europe, are going to take the competitions even less seriously if they're told, oh, by the way, if you want to,
they're already not taking it serious.
You have to play from the beginning.
They're not,
and you're going to play a bunch of youth players.
They're rotating 8 guys
to balance it.
So they don't have to go travel to, I don't know, to Poland. So they don't have to go from Thursday to Sunday. You don't think these other clubs are competing on the same fronts domestically, Thursday and Sunday, trying to compete in their leagues as well? Meanwhile, they're doing this with wages of, 20 million euros? Crystal Palace, a great example. They spent 150 million euros this year bringing in players. You know how much Rayo spent? 7 million euros.
So how are you meant
7 million euros. And they're trying to compete and making sure that they can be competitive in La Liga while also making it to the Conference League final.
So how are you meant to balance that, though? Because you're saying to me, well, we want you to have a wage cap, or maybe it ends up being like a spendage cap, or whatever it ends, however that looks. All you're going to end up with is Premier League teams taking it even less seriously.
They already don't. That's my point. They don't. Crystal Palace didn't even finish top 8. Crystal Palace didn't even finish top 8.
So now you're saying for all those fans who have those great moments, who want their clubs to go further in it, no, we're going to put things in place which are going to stop your club from actually taking it in any way seriously. You'll just drop out in the group stages because we don't want the Premier League to be dominant.
Freiburg deserved every opportunity as well to have European glory. It's no different than Villa.
So many
Rayo
years.
Vallecano deserves every opportunity for European glory, but they probably will not get it because they're facing a behemoth in Crystal Palace.
La Liga was a behemoth in Crystal Palace. It's just such a mispainting of what that team is. It's the 6th biggest club in London. It's in a smallest stadium in London.
The 6th biggest club in London would be the biggest club outside of London, if not considering 3 or 4 the PSGs, the Bayern Munichs, the Barcelonas, and the Real Madrid.
And how on earth are you going to manage to make this make sense versus the Champions League? Because the fact is, the Champions League doesn't have this problem.
They don't.
The Champions League doesn't have this problem because La Liga was so dominant for so long in Europe, because in the Champions League, Real Madrid, Barcelona, whoever it was, faced no financial sanctions.
Champions League is a whole different issue.
And then, but in the lower divisions, they were spending the money, they were having the opportunities. They were now the Premier League over the past 5 to 10 years. That money has been exponential. It's like worse than the NFL at this point. But I just don't think that teams should be punished for being in the most effective, for having to spend that money. And the idea,
other clubs should not be punished for facing Goliath.
Unless you can put wage caps across the board. The money that's from TV is there anyway. That money I want going into the pockets of players. I don't want that going into the pockets of the billionaires who are running the clubs. I want players on the pitch to be paid what they deserve to be paid. And therefore, we're going to end up finding that if you put wage caps in place, suddenly teams are having to decide, well, we can't afford to pay you in line with what other.
If you're going to play a Cole Palmer, bring in the academy guys that you're already rotating in, because you don't want Cole Palmer traveling on a Thursday to Uzbekistan.
You think those teams are already hamstrung by being in the European competitions? This is going to hamstrung them tenfold over.
No, it won't. They're already
or they're just going to have to make the decision.
They just show up at the last minute and get an A on the group project. That's all they're doing.
Chelsea did that. Villa don't do that. Villa
rotated. Villa did rotate.
Yeah, but Palace
did rotate.
Conference League is a whole different conversation, I think, because that is a different competition with a different level of quality. And from Palace's perspective, you're going to play Sligo, which is a bunch of amateur players who don't play football full time. That's tough, right?
That was the point of the Conference League.
Villa are going to face big European nations in both the group stages, and they are playing big name players in there. They have a squad for a reason, and yes, they are rotating that squad, but I don't think they should be punished for that. I don't think they should be punished for that with a wage cap. I don't think they should be punished for that.
The median wages for Europe is going to be different than what it is for
You're only going to play Emi Buendia in the Premier League, but not in the group stage of the Europa League. Now you can't play him in the final. That's unfair on Buendia.
They're already doing it. They're already doing it, though. They're already doing it. They're not playing their top players in the group stage because they know, because of the Swiss model, it doesn't matter if they finish top 8 or if they make it to the playoff. They're still going to make a deep run in Europa League and Conference League because they
actually a UEFA problem. A wage cap hurts the teams, not helps UEFA. It hurts the teams.
No, it absolutely will help. The whole point was to democratize the opportunity for European glory, and right now it's all going to England. So what's the point of that?
All right, sorry. The other side of the glass. Sam's getting angry at me, and understandably so. We should have gotten to that debate earlier because it was good.
I mean, you wanted to praise Villa for 10 minutes.
Yeah, and they deserve it. Aston Villa, champions of Europe, Europa League champions. Unai Emery, build a statue for him outside Villa Park.
Up the Villa!
You deserve it.
Villa.
Up the Villa. Up the Villa, Gabby.
Up the Super League.
Come on. And we will continue to debate this and discuss this. But up next, West Ham, a team who are facing potentially dropping out of the Premier League this year. Up next on the S Word.
The S Word with Will Gavin and Master Tesfacion from talkSPORT. Kickoff to the full-time whistle. Don't say the S word. Say the F word. Football. The S word from talkSPORT.
Let me compose myself now.
Nothing to compose yourself about. You're fine. We'll get into it. Keep getting into it. Let us know your thoughts at talkSPORT S Word.
Please.
On YouTube, on Twitter, on X, wherever you find us, and let us know your thoughts on the English dominance in the Europa League and the Conference League. Does UEFA need to do something to battle back? Should they be putting some kind of wage cap in place? Should there be some enforced squads to stop teams from rotating so heavily in the group
Fewer
stage?
Premier League teams, maybe?
Let us know your thoughts. I mean, okay, no, stop it. We have other topics to get on to, and we have guests to talk to, and we'll just keep going. We can just be here for 2 hours debating this topic, of course. Thanks, buddy. Appreciate it. Still to come on the show, former USMNT midfielder Stu Holden will join us, Brian T. Smith as well, plus Pablo Maura on this idea that MLS want to introduce a stop clock into the way that football is timed. But right now, a leading West Ham fan group has announced a major decision on plans for their latest protest for the final day. Crunch clash with Leeds United. As many predicted, the Premier League relegation battle has gone down to the final day. West Ham know what needs to happen to survive, and they have called off this protest. Well, I'm delighted to say joining us now from West Ham Fan TV is the great Dan Lawless. Dan, how are you doing, sir?
Yeah, not too bad, not too bad. Just stressing every day ahead of this game on Sunday. You know, that's all I can think about. So I just can't wait to get it over with, to be honest.
Get it over. Football should be bringing joy, but I understand where you are right now. And look, I also understand why West Ham fans are protesting. I totally understand why there are issues with the club. So for a layman who maybe doesn't know the history, why protest and why call off the protests this weekend?
So, okay, we'll start with why protest. I'll try and summarize it as quickly as I can because there's so many reasons, but it comes down to the ownership who are responsible for the mess that we're in. You know, we're looking at potential relegation after giving up our historic home, a place that we loved, Upton Park, to move to a stadium that we don't love, an athletic stadium that's not purpose-built for football, that we rent in order to apparently compete with the Arsenals and the Chelseas and to play Champions League football. You know, something that a team like Bournemouth are potentially on the cusp of in a 11,000-seater stadium. We told we had to move to this stadium, this London stadium, to compete. And now we're facing relegation. Just poor decision after poor decision, hiring the wrong managers, penny pinching, scattergun approaches in transfer windows has led us to the mess we're in. We will not go anywhere until that ownership is changed. Why stop the protest on Sunday? Because we're put in a situation, unfortunately, where we have to focus on getting behind the team to get us out of that mess, because relegation could be absolutely disastrous for this club financially. And we have to just do our part and put our problems aside for now. But it's not over for sure. The process will continue.
Sounds like a lot of conflicting emotions that you're dealing with right now. And is everyone on board with canceling this protest? Is everyone unified in the idea of getting behind this team? Or is it still a lot to ask for some West Ham fans considering everything they've gone through?
I think it's always going to be a hard ask. I think there is a lot of anger and there's a lot of appetite for venting against this ownership. This is the last game of the season. This is going to be the last time until next season, our first game, where we can have that spotlight on us and make our voices heard and get that attention. Because after that, you know, the stadium's shut to West Ham fans for the summer. So it's difficult, but I think most fans will understand the priority is supporting the team. In this case, I think there's been instances where protests have happened earlier and people have said, oh, don't protest because you'll affect the team. And actually, I think those games that we did protest, we ended up winning, so maybe we should protest. But I think, yeah, maybe that's big. But I think for the great...
Feels like a classic East London, like just, you know, us against them, get your backs up, prove yourself. Like maybe that's what you guys actually need, is a bit of...
Yeah, a little bit of a cauldron, a little bit of,
let it get a bit
edge
tasty
to it. But at least now, like, whatever happens Sunday, because I know what will happen. Like, we protest and we lose and we go down. Oh, it's because of the fans. Like, we have to remove any of that narrative that we can be blamed, because blame will be tried to be shifted to the fans. I've already seen it as things like, oh, it's the fans' fault because they wanted Moyes out. That's why. It's.
I mean, that is a fair question, though.
What, the Moyes thing? Yeah, the Moyes thing comes up all the time. Not the fact that, you know, they changed Moyes' job role, which he was unhappy and why he didn't want to sign a new contract, because he was a manager and they wanted to make him a head coach and have him answer to Tim Steidten, who he didn't get on with. They would have been more than happy to keep Moyes, and he would have been happy to stay had they not changed his role.
That doesn't take away from the fact that the fans did want him out, though.
But that's football. That's football. I'm sorry. Like, if you play defensive football that's not very entertaining while losing
for some people. For some
4-5
people, it wins them
week.
Premier Leagues. Like,
no, but this is the thing. You're watching defensive football while losing 5-0, 6-0 near enough every week. Let's not forget that season. We conceded record amount of goals. Any club, I don't care what team you support, no fan is going to want to sit through that. You're going to lose fans if you're doing that.
I am empathetic to it. I am. You want to watch good football, but I can also see the argument when people say a European trophy, 3 top 10 finishes. Like, those are real things that happened. And yes, that season was poor, but Villa's season started poor this year. They were down in a relegation battle 8 games into the season. They're going to finish in the top 4. And I'm not saying that's where West Ham would have ended up, but I just thought maybe he'd bought himself a bit more patience.
No, well, this is and listen, Villa 8 games in, no one's in a relegation battle. But
okay, fair.
You know, and Emery, like I said, he's got a lot of credit in the back, and Moyes had credit in the back because don't forget, in that Conference League season, in the league, we had a horrific season. We had an absolutely horrific season in the league. Was in a relegation battle that season. A lot of us, even myself, was critical. I said, you know what, we've won the trophy. You know, he's earned another season. And we started the next season well, to be fair. Mm-hmm. But, again, to sit through it and you know, go into games. I gave up my season ticket last season, so I was there every week. It was miserable. It was miserable seeing us not only play the worst football of my life, worse than Moyes had played previously, but lose by 5 goals, 6 goals, 4 goals on a regular basis. And you think, this can't be sustainable. So we had a really old squad as well. You know, partly that Moyes built. I'm not putting it all on Moyes because it all comes back to Sullivan. But I think it's very simplistic look to just go, well, if they kept Moyes, and they should have kept Moyes, because if you say that we should have kept Moyes, then you're excusing blame from Sullivan, because it is how bad this club's been run. And it's not because we should have kept, it's the appointments after that was so poor. Lopetegui, there weren't fans going, Lopetegui, get us Lopetegui, Graham Potter, Nuno. It's the appointments. Why do I have to look at Palace having Glasner, Bournemouth having managers like Iraola? They're playing brilliant football, Bournemouth, and on the cusp of Champions League football. Why do we have to sit there and be happy just to be in the league, getting slapped every week and playing awful football? Why? It don't make sense.
And look, this is why
I'm emotional.
No, Dan, it's why the reason I asked the question is because you hear it come up time and time again, and you've given a very passionate and a good response to it. Because I agree with you, the problem hasn't been necessarily getting rid of Moyes; it's been the appointment since, it's been the treatment of the ownership. But I'm going to push back on one other thing as a football fan. I understand your heart and your soul was in Upton Park. I understand that you guys completely bought into that and you hate the idea that you had to move because it made you competitive, and you look at the Bournemouths and you get frustrated that they've had success without having to do that. But do you understand why other football fans are frustrated that you are earning far more revenue than ever and before in a stadium you're only paying £4 million a year for, that you don't have to pay the stewardship fees or anything else for, and yet all we hear is complaining about it? Like, I can understand why other football fans are frustrated by that.
Yeah, but you're frustrated at something that doesn't benefit West Ham fans. The fact that we save all this money on revenue and they're making all this money is clearly not trickling down to the fan experience, because that doesn't mean anything. I don't care how much money we earn if it doesn't result in a successful team, if it doesn't result in us going and actually being ambitious and going and getting managers that aren't just out of contract, but paying out for the best managers and trying to get a good structure behind us. Like, none of that matters. Bournemouth and Brighton and Palace have shown if you're just a well-run club, you don't need all of that. You don't need the revenues and a cheap stadium that you benefit off. You just need to be a well-run football club. So they can be frustrated, but be frustrated with Sullivan and the people that made the deal. But it don't benefit us, so we have every right to moan about it.
Trust me, as a guy who lives in London, I'm frustrated with the people that made the deal more than anyone else. It's never West Ham I'm taking the ire out on, but again, it's one of those arguments you hear, and I see it regularly. What's for you then? How concerned are you about the spectre of relegation, what it means for the football club? But equally, staying up, if it just means the norm staying, Sullivan staying, nothing actually changing and being back in this position in 12 months' time.
Yeah, it's a real.
I know I've given you a horrible catch-22 there, but it does feel like if you're not relegated, I can't see Sullivan going anywhere unless it's that he's forced out by whatever the kind of behind-the-scenes stuff is going on.
Yeah, I mean, there's no guarantee he leaves if we get relegated. There's a hope, there is a hope that he'll look at it and go, let me just cut my losses now. On the other hand, if we stay up, maybe he looks, well, this is the time for me to maximise my value for what I can get for the club, because the club won't be worth as much if we get relegated. So if he's gonna sell, the best chance for him selling is us as a Premier League club. And if he stays, there's a chance we won't be the following season. He's kicking the can down the road. So that would be the opportunity to sell. Whereas if we go down, he might think, let me get the club back up and then try to sell. And I think if we go down, there's a real possibility that we don't come back up, because we're talking mass player sales. We're going to have to sell a lot of players if we stay up anyway, because of the situation we're in, but a lot more if we go down. Then we're trusting Sullivan to handle that recruitment and ensure we get the right players in to get us up, the right manager, because Nuno will probably go if we go down. And I don't have any faith at all. So if we stay down, then revenues go down again. The parachute payments reduce. So then we become just another championship club. And, we really things start to look bleak. So relegation is not something that I want at all. Some fans think it will clear things out and it will be a renewal. I would rather stay in the Premier League, and then try to hope and we can get him out.
I want to throw another hypothetical at you, Dan. Would you trade your Conference League title to still be at Upton Park?
100%. 100%. Yeah, 100%. I would trade it for anything, because, that was an amazing moment, winning that trophy. Unforgettable. And the parade the next day, it was amazing. But those memories don't outweigh the memories I had at Upton Park, the experience, the match day, of support in your club, going to the same pubs, going and seeing the same faces, having that experience of actually being close to the pitch, having been in a stadium that feels West Ham with a good atmosphere. That match day experience is something that I would trade anything for, because look, as a West Ham fan, look, and you're an Arsenal fan, so you've just seen you win the league and you've seen FA Cups over here. We're not in it for the glory. We don't see glory often. We support West Ham for the culture of West Ham, and Upton Park was the centre of that culture, and now we've lost it. We've lost a big part of our identity. A lot of fans come to our stadium, the away fans, and say, you sold your soul for this S-hole. And they're right. It is like we've sold our soul. We've sold a piece of ourselves. So I'd give anything to
S-word. Listen, Dan, the one kind of query I do have just to finish on very shortly. At least with all of this going on, it must be nice to know that 90% of the football public is desperate for you to win on Sunday and send Tottenham down to the Championship.
Yeah, listen, that support is appreciated. I wish the players would appreciate it. I don't have much faith in the team, because that support was there against Newcastle. In fact, a lot of Newcastle fans wanted us to win, and we still turned up like it was pre-season. Like we was on the beach, and they were the team that were fighting for survival. So these players who, need to step up and show that they've got something about them. They've got, a bit of professionalism, a little bit of pride and integrity to go out and play like it is the most important game ever. Because this is big. This is bigger than the Conference League win. This is a huge game. Unfortunately, because of what happened against Newcastle, it's out of our hands if we win, but just win our game. If we just win our game, then whatever happens in the Spurs game happens. But I don't want to have it in a situation where they lose, but we draw, or we lose, and we've just taken ourselves out of the game. So yeah, I'm worried, but hopefully we can step up. And Nuno does the right thing. I'm still so angry with Nuno for the Newcastle game. So hopefully he learned from that.
It's all good, baby. You got our support. Come on. Come on.
Appreciate you, Dan. Brilliant stuff. Dan Lawless joining us. Excellent stuff. Thanks, from him. You wish West Ham the very best of luck on Sunday. I just, I prayed to the footballing gods earlier this week. They at least gave us one piece of drama for Sunday. That was this relegation battle. It's going to be sensational. Still to come on the show. show today, we're going to turn our attention to America ahead of the World Cup. The MLS have got some fun ideas going on, in air quotes, or brilliant genius, if you're to believe in Master. And we will, of course, be talking about the England squad. It's announced at 9:45 tomorrow morning, so up next, my England squad is picked for Master to pick apart.
Bringing all the biggest football debates stateside. The S Word from talkSPORT. Presents the S Word. Get your full-on football fix from across the football galaxy. The S Word from talkSPORT.
You're back with the S Word here on talkSPORT. Myself, Will Gavin, Master Tesfazian, alongside me, bringing you, bridging the gap between the North American soccer fan, the UK football fan.
This is the Atlantic Ocean right here?
Yeah. Right, you know it. And I don't see no icebergs. No. I see nothing but smooth sailing, baby.
Nice smooth seas.
Look, West Ham, you got any thoughts on that? Let us know at talkSPORT S Word on all the social media channels. We've got a fascinating next hour coming up. It's been such a big, news week this week. We've not been able to get into some of the wider issues. So Brian T. Smith will join us on the news that 75% of Americans don't know who Maurizio Pochettino is 22 days out from the World Cup.
He hasn't done much to make his name known.
Pablo Mauro will join us on the idea that MLS want to change how we referee football games from a time perspective. And Stu Holden, the former US MT midfielder, will look forward to the World Cup. So we've got a big World Cup hour in the second hour. And with that in mind, let's talk about the England squad, revealed tomorrow morning at 9:45. And you will hear it first on talkSPORT. We not getting the package? No? Okay, I'll keep going. Sorry. Has it not worked again? I love this. I love this every time because I always feel like an absolute bug.
Rubbish.
Thanks. Gab's absolutely saving that. No, yes. Right. So, okay, let's talk about, we thought we'd have a little fun today. Squad's announced tomorrow. So last night I sat in the second half of the Villa game.
We had fun or you had fun?
I had some fun. I did. I enjoyed this. This is sits very much in the nerd maths area of me getting to sit with a spreadsheet and bring players in and out and play around with it. Yeah, that's the guy. So yeah, I went and looked at the England squad and I picked my 26-man England squad as I would like it picked for the World Cup this summer. I left out some of my favourite players. I looked at form. I did consider what it should be a squad. I didn't just go, I'm going to pick my favourite 26 players. Are we able to get the graphic up of my 26 or should I just read through it? Perfect. Let's see my England squad for the World Cup. So my goalkeepers, I've gone completely obvious with this with Pickford, Henderson and Nick Pope.
No issues there.
Defenders. So centre-backs, Ezri Konsa, Mark Gahey, John Stones, and I have brought Harry Maguire into the squad. Some question marks over that. I think we need a good tourist. I think we need a good leader in that back line. And I'm not buying this Jordan Henderson hype I've been seeing over social media the last couple of days. Fullbacks, Reece James, Tino Livramento on the right back position. I am a little concerned about health there, but Reece James has been playing recent weeks. Lewis Hall and Nico O'Reilly. Starting Nico O'Reilly, but Lewis Hall a great option, can play both sides. And I have included the mercurial talent of Trent Alexander-Arnold in the squad.
That's a lot of barbecue chicken right there.
Yeah, my midfield. Declan Rice, Kobbie Mainoo, Elliot Anderson and Adam Wharton to play those two holding roles, the 6 and the 8. And then Morgan Gibbs-White, Morgan Rogers, Jude Bellingham, and I did include Cole Palmer over Phil Foden in my squad. I nearly thought about Eberechi Eze coming out, and then I just thought he plays much better, more direct football,
whatever happens,
more of the Tuchel style. So I'm here for it. Harry Kane, look, Bukayo Saka, Marcus Rashford, his form for Barcelona has been excellent. Anthony Gordon, Tuchel loves him. I've always put him in there for that basis. I have put Eze in. And I went for my second striker as Ollie Watkins. So the notable people who missed out on the squad based on that: no Jared Bowen, no Luke Shaw or Ben White. Well, so many fullbacks. Levi Colwill I've seen popping up in a lot of people's squad. He's come back and been brilliant for 3 games, but he's also been injured for the better part of the season. No Marlon Lewis Skelly. I seriously considered that. Trent offers the same option for me and just has something completely different. No James Garner, which I hated. No Welbeck. No Foden. I said no Bowen. No Madueke. I don't think anyone's crying about that. So, Master, what do you make of my England 26?
Ooh, goalkeepers, no problem with. I think you nailed it very easy. A+. Defenders, I am looking at your fullbacks and I am saying if there is a nation with some fantastic wingers, you guys are in trouble.
I disagree. I think
you guys are in trouble.
I think I would play. I'd start, if they're both healthy, Nico O'Reilly, Reece James, or in fact Tino Livramento on the right side.
When is Reece James ever healthy?
I would, but I love Lewis Hall. I love Tino Livramento, who has been back and healthy. Like very
attacking. I'm
here for it.
Fullbacks, and again, that's my concern. You will need to have rock solid center backs that are some of the best in the world. And at one point, England used to always produce some of the best center backs in the world, but I don't know if your center backs are good enough to withstand having such front foot fullbacks.
I'd say in front of it, the deepest midfield of any squad in the World Cup.
More than Portugal?
In terms of depth, Portugal's first 3, I'm taking it. They've got
Bernardo Silva coming off the bench.
Yeah. Bernardo Silva as like you hit him and Vitinha and you have that kind of replacement. I think, I'm starting João Neves.
Of course, yeah.
But my point is, in terms of depth, I think you can rotate those guys every game of the group stage into the round of 32, even into the round of 16, and it doesn't drop off in quality at any point on the rotation.
No. It's a really good midfield. I'm looking through this. The form that Cole Palmer's in, do you feel confident in him?
Not hugely. Cole Palmer was my biggest question mark going into it. And Foden's recent form actually has suddenly upturned. But I've seen too much of him in an England shirt. I've seen too much of him played off the left. I've seen too much of him played out of position. He just doesn't suit the style of football anymore. This is not Pep Guardiola keeping the ball, little trios on the outside. This is much more direct football. And I love Phil Foden. He can produce a moment of magic. But I just think that the players there suit more what England are looking to do right now.
Adam Wharton is also an interesting shout because you talked about Miles Lewis-Skelly potentially at fullback, but what Miles Lewis-Skelly has done lately over the last month, at midfield.
Last month
is he a shout?
He's had a couple of good games in midfield, and
second leg of Atletico Madrid, a lot of pressure going into the run-in, and he has performed. And I have been a Miles Lewis Skelly skeptic because he has been. Last season, we saw him being very reckless. A couple poor challenges that led to red cards. I thought to a certain extent he was a liability. Mikel Arteta put the trust in him, and in some big games, he had big performances. I think he deserves. I'm not saying he's going to make the squad, but I think he can challenge that.
He was in consideration. I'm telling you, he was in consideration. I'm telling you, he misses out. And we're hearing that Dean Henderson and Adam Wharton are going to probably not be with the squad from moment one because of the Conference League final. That actually they're going to bring up a fourth choice keeper. I don't know if they'll do the same in midfield to
was it Ramsdale
out. So do we see or Steele potentially? He does like Steele, but do we see a situation where maybe Lewis Skelly does join up with the squad? We've still got a lot of football to play. We've still got the Premier League this weekend. He's a great option to have there. From what I want from this team, from the direct style of football I want from them, I prefer what's in there. I just prefer what we've got available to us. Left wing is an interesting one to me because I'm not actually a huge Anthony Gordon guy over this
Bowen.
Setup.
But you've got him in the lineup.
Tuchel loves him. And he loves to get to the byline and pull the ball back, which suits Harry Kane so beautifully. I absolutely see the reasoning behind him. Marcus Rashford is going to be
This is your roster. This isn't Thomas Tuchel. Last time I checked, I don't know how much German you know.
Jared Bowen flashed for a few weeks and everyone got all overexcited again. He was really bad in that Newcastle game and he's about to get relegated from the Premier League. Okay. Liverpool will purchase him for an absolute cut price and maybe he'll look great next year and he'll be in the squad for the next World Cup or the next Euros. Fine. He's not done enough this year.
And Anthony Gordon has.
I believe Anthony Gordon is more capable.
But if we're basing this off of form, Anthony Gordon isn't even playing right now.
They've both been given time for England. They've both been given opportunities. This was your argument the other day about why we shouldn't be allowing João Pedro to cloud our judgment of his domestic form. When in an England shirt, Anthony Gordon has changed games, come in and made a difference. Jared Bowen. He's a nice player.
Set pieces. He can give you some creativity.
Oh, I want some. Where's that Bukayo Saka corner we saw last weekend?
Declan Rice.
That Burnley corner was
Alexander. You have no short of set piece options.
I'm not too worried about that. I'm not too worried about that at all. Plus, we've got the best number 9 in world football playing for us up front. We'll be fine.
If we're talking form though, Ollie Watkins this season, he's getting older. Kind of looks like maybe a half step slower than what we're accustomed to seeing, and you're seeing the form that Dominic Calvert-Lewin has been in with Leeds. That is the one suggestion I would have. Calvert-Lewin, when he is healthy, is a difference maker. I would have a strong consideration of putting DCL in there over Ollie Watkins.
Yeah.
That's my thought.
Watkins has done it for England on the biggest stage. He is more suited to that hold-up play style of Harry Kane. Dominic Calvert-Lewin wants to be getting in behind. That's where I think the difference is. I'm essentially looking for a guy who
like for like replacement
can be a like for like replacement. And while that's not necessarily Watkins, and Watkins does run beyond players more than Kane does, and Kane likes to sit a little deeper. I think he can do the Kane role more. Actually, the guy I think does the Kane role better than anyone else is Ivan Toney, but he went and played football in the Middle East instead of staying in the Premier League and became a bit of a. I put no Toney in my thing because it hurt me to not put him in my squad because I love Ivan Toney. But
the other part about Tuchel, and I think you're stuck in the Southgate mentality. Tuchel, he can completely change this lineup from one match to the other and completely change the style of play. So that's the whole appeal of Tuchel, was that you wanted someone that was more tactically sound and can really give the versatility that these players provide. And we'll see if that happens. But I think DCL deserves a shot.
All right, who have we missed out? Who would you have in there? We'll all find out tomorrow morning who has made it.
They're still not winning.
Mine. Don't worry, it's coming home. This is the S word, and we're going all America after the break.
The daily deep dive into the world of football. The S word from talkSPORT. S Word, featuring Will Gavin and Master Tess Fassian. And a squad of big-name contributors. The S Word from talkSPORT.
Welcome back to the S Word from talkSPORT. Will Gavin, Master Tess Fatsian in the studio. And, you know, this show is for our American friends, for your friends, I guess you just say. And we are going full America in this hour. Stu Holding joins us, the USMNT midfielder. And we will also be looking at the report that MLS is looking at bringing a stop clock into football to change the way that 90 minutes is no longer 90 minutes, essentially. So we'll have that coming up for you as well. In a moment, Brian T. Smith will be joining us. But first, considering we've just done my England squad for the World Cup, we do have a little bit of squad news coming from our very own chief football reporter, Alex Crook. And that is that Thomas Tuchel is strongly considering calling Levi Colwill up to the England squad for the World Cup. We just talked about his brilliant vein of form since coming back from his serious knee injury. He was there to watch the Chelsea centre-back in last weekend's FA Cup final defeat to Manchester City and has proved his fitness after returning to training over 2 months ago. Obviously, that would mean Harry Maguire sweating a place. Dan Burn maybe is one of those guys who's on the outsides because John Stones is been injury here. I had Stones in my back line because there's a level of class when he's in there. If he's healthy, he's so good with the ball. He's so I believe. Other bits of news from that squad. Lewis Hall is expected to be part of the squad, was a question mark. The third keeper, I had Nick Pope in mine. Apparently, Man City's James Trafford is set to complete the goalkeeping roster and be the third choice.
Building for the future, maybe?
Yeah, I mean, that is that argument. I don't hate it at all. Nick Pope is a better option if you've got to start a guy day one. But if in theory both Henderson and Pickford are healthy, I like the idea of bringing a young keeper along. I might even make that change to my squad.
I like that too, actually.
Anthony Gordon is expected to get the nod. And then finally up front, and this was interesting to me after our conversation we just had, Ollie Watkins was snubbed for the March Internationals, has finished this season on this rich vein of goal-scoring form, which saw him sneak into my team. But Danny Welbeck is in the 55-man long list, we understand. And when we were talking about DCL and Ollie Watkins, I was considering Welbeck above both at one point and end up having Watkins go in. So fascinating if Welbeck at his age, with what he's done for Brighton this year, he's really tremendous. And if you're talking about one tournament to come along and do something if he needs to, I don't hate it at all.
And he gives you everything you're looking for, the like-for-like potential replacement. Danny Welbeck can obviously play that role very, very well. So Welbeck's a great shot. I just think DCL, I think he's, in my opinion at least, what he's done over the last couple weeks, it's hard to ignore what a healthy DCL can do. He is an absolute difference maker. And if you need someone to come off the bench in 20 minutes to try and just run wild and try to create chances, DCL can give that to you. So can Danny Welbeck as well.
He's one of those, and I think all strikers are this potentially, but you very rarely do you have a Lewandowski or Kane who just is a beast. 38 games, 46 games, whatever it is a season. He is quite streaky as a striker.
Both of them are. DCL and Welbeck.
And so, that is the question mark, right? If he hits a vein of form, he could win us the World Cup. If he is, the DCL that we saw in large periods at Everton, he could be a wasted space on the plane. That's it, right?
But God forbid, Harry Kane plays all 90 minutes, 180 if need be, and you don't have to worry about those issues.
He's been sensational all year, but I would like somebody who they could rest him for in the longest and hottest World Cup of all time. Anyway.
The greatest World Cup of all time.
The greatest World Cup of all time, apparently, is on the horizon. And I'm delighted to say that joining the show now on this fascinating article that 75% of Americans don't know who Maurizio Pochettino is, as we are 22 days out from the World Cup. The brilliant from talkSPORT.com, Brian T. Smith joins us. Brian, how are you, sir?
I'm great, gentlemen. How are you doing today?
I apologise for inviting you on and then just nattering about England for a few minutes at the top, but
typical English.
I fell asleep. I didn't hear anything. It was okay.
It's coming home. Don't worry about it. It'll be wonderful to come and win it in your wonderful country. I mentioned that top line there, but talk to us about this news that's come out overnight, this piece you've written for talkSPORT.com, because I think a lot of people will be concerned what that means for the wider public in the US for this tournament.
Yeah, I keep waiting for the real World Cup buzz to kick in the United States of America, and it just hasn't happened yet, to the point that there's a survey, and we have this story at talkSPORT.com, Will, that more than 75% of adults in this survey, which is 1,000 adults, did not know who Mauricio Pochettino is. They did not know who the United States men's national team manager is. They also thought that he might be a cartoon bear when that name was mentioned. He might be a Michelin-starred chef, which actually would probably be cooler. At times, I would love to be.
It's better than a cartoon bear, I think it's fair to say.
I love the cartoon bear thing, and but I do think it is symbolic of where things are at right now. And I've said this 100 times, and I will keep saying that because I believe it is 1,000% the truth. This will all change if USMNT wins that first match and they make a run and America gets behind this team. But for me right now, this feels much more like an international World Cup that will mostly be in the United States of America. And the excitement is from England and from Brazil and Portugal and Argentina and Spain and all the top countries. There's just still an unknown factor. And you can put Kristen Pulisic on the cover of Time, which I don't really think that means that much anymore. Time magazine obviously isn't what it used to be, but you can do all these things. But until kids in America, whether they're in Iowa or Montana or Louisiana or California, until they know these players' names, until they know the team, until that they have to watch the United States men's national team, you're just not going to have that buzz, to the point that 75% of Americans have no idea who Mauricio Pochettino is, whereas in England, 99% of people do.
Really made me want to do like a Maurizio Pochettino, like it's me, Mario. Like that's definitely the vibe I'm getting from that cartoon bear.
Yeah, from America. That's
America.
Also, another headline statistic in your survey was that 84% of fans are heading into this World Cup feeling anxious or deeply concerned. When you compile that data, were you surprised just how quickly the American fan base has kind of swung in this direction? And what is your sentiment towards why that is?
I think part of this all comes back to everything going on off of the pitch, off of the field, right? I mean, it is a chaotic time in the world. And whether we're talking about different wars going on, travel issues, the economy, immigration, on and on and on, I've thought from day one, guys, that none of this is what you want to have advertising the United States as the place to go to this summer for the World Cup. And I was on this program last week and we talked about ticket prices. You throw in the ticket prices. It's just not fan friendly. It is not fan accessible. And if you have to think twice to hop on a plane and spend a ton of money, not a small amount of money, a ton of money to go watch a couple matches, you might be reluctant to do it right now. So again, I think that in the end, this will work out fine, and we're going to look back, hopefully, and it's a big, beautiful, huge World Cup. But it just doesn't feel like that right now. And, they're having issues filling out hotels. FIFA's had to back out of a lot of their hotel holds. Every bit of news, it's not good news right now. They need to have these matches played. They need full stadiums. And I still think the easiest way to do that is to continue to drop down ticket prices and make this more accessible to your average sports fan in America who doesn't normally follow soccer.
Everything is bigger in America. We had big, beautiful, then huge, then just America.
We're as big as it gets. But also, as you mentioned about the ticket prices, it's interesting to note that as there is Mayor Mamdani, the New York City mayor, has secured 1,000 tickets for $50 each to a couple of the MetLife Stadium matches in New Jersey, New York for residents locally. That will also include 1,000 tickets for 5 group stage fixtures, a round of 32 tie, and a round of 16 game. The winners of this will also receive a free round trip bus travel to attend. Of course, Mayor Mamdani, huge football fan, huge Arsenal fan. So him pushing this efforts with Gianni Infantino and also making a call to Arsene Wenger to try and make this happen. Do you think that will be a sign of things to come to try and spur more interest into this World Cup?
I wish that was going to make a difference. I think that is absolutely not going to make a dent at all. We're talking about 104 matches in Canada, in Mexico, in the United States of America. That feels like political tokenism to me. That feels like he's trying to make himself look good. If you wanted to actually go and buy a ticket for the final right now, you're going to have to shell out about $34,000. So what about the fans of international fans who actually want to go to that match? That works for 1,000 people. That doesn't work for 70,000 people. That doesn't work for all 104 matches. FIFA made a huge mistake by going all in, capitalistic, American for this World Cup. And I've said this before, this all comes down to Gianni Infantino. He could have changed this if he wanted to. He continues to stand behind it. These ticket prices should be lower. The hotels should be full. We should be ranting and raving and drooling for this World Cup because it's going to be the greatest and the biggest, and it just does not feel that way. So if Americans don't know about it, if they're not excited about it, if it's more of an international cup in an American city, that is going to continue to be a problem. And giving away or making 1,000 tickets cheap isn't going to fix anything. That's just him shining a spotlight on himself. That doesn't fix the real underlying problem with this World Cup and FIFA running it.
There is part of me as well that still to this day, and I know this is an old issue that we're trawling back up, but New Jersey as the site of the final still makes zero sense to me. I remember, in fact, at the Super Bowl 2 years ago, talking to Jerry Jones on the red carpet and being like, it was 2 days after they made the announcement, and being like, should have been at Jerry World, right, Jerry? It should have been. And he gave us a very political and a very nice answer, but AT&T, or I understand SoFi, has a few issues with attendance because of the seating in the lower bowl and stuff.
You have a Premier League owner who did not have a stadium.
You had years to figure it out. You had so long to figure that out. You could have made it work.
Atlanta could have been an option as well.
It was the idea that we have to hold it in New York because it's got this big shining beacon, we can put the Statue of Liberty and, the One World Trade and everything else and slap it on posters and make it look great. And I just it's a bad stadium and it's not in the city and it's difficult to get to and it's not great.
Well, there are times when you and I agree so much it's actually kind of dangerous.
A clock is wrong twice a day, right?
I was exactly. I was getting goosebumps while you were talking right there because that is part of the problem, man. Why does it have to be in New York, right? Why could this not be in the biggest, best stadiums in America, AT&T Stadium, SoFi Stadium, wherever it's going to be? You could have also had this in Kansas City at Arrowhead Stadium and had the world come there and had an incredible environment. The problem they're going to have, Will, with this final is it's going to be all corporate. It's all going to be sponsorships, which is why I'm skeptical about 1,000 tickets for that. It's so overpriced. It should have been fan-friendly. And yeah, put it at AT&T Stadium. It's good enough for Jake Paul and Mike Tyson. It's good enough for the biggest sports events in the world that are in America. Why not have one of those stadiums? MetLife Stadium is basically a parking lot in a swamp. That's the environment that you want for the World Cup final. But that's on FIFA. You wouldn't have made that call, and I wouldn't have made that call either.
One last question from my end here on the expectation of the World Cup. From the survey that you had, only 12% of surveyed fans believe the U.S. men's national team will reach the semifinal. I almost my voice cracked at the idea of the U.S. men's national team making it to the semifinal.
If you win a knockout stage game, you're going to be elated. Let's be honest.
And they'll be against England. 68%, the mass majority, view a quarterfinal exit as this absolute ceiling. And so...
Again, you'd be delighted with that, surely.
What do you think... How far does the U.S. men's national team need to go for this thing to really start taking off and becoming the event and spectacle that maybe we all assumed it would be when they first got the bid?
Everything, when I've spoken to former USMNT players, the guys who have actually been in the World Cup and played at the highest level for the United States, they've all said it's basically quarterfinal. If they go any farther than that, then we'll be having an entire different conversation, and America will truly go soccer mad this summer. And it won't matter where they're playing or who they're playing. It will take over the entire country like we've never seen before. I do know this. If they do not get out of the group stage when they didn't even have to qualify, right? USMNT United States is in this because they're hosting it. That's why they automatically qualify for it. If they don't get out of that group stage, I mean, it will be an absolute train wreck, dumpster fire, disaster. I believe they will get out of that, but it hasn't gotten any easier. I mean, Turkey is tough. All those opening matches are much tougher now than they first appeared, especially after they look so poor in their friendlies, guys. I think they get out of the group stage, and then, can you win a knockout match? Can you get to the quarterfinals? If you do that, and the stadiums are full, and we don't have any major, political or God forbid, off the pitch issues or security issues, it will be a successful World Cup in the end. But I do feel like if USA is going to really take soccer in America to the next stage, they've got to make a run in the World Cup because America's too busy. You've got Aaron Rodgers on the retirement tour. You have the NBA Finals and SGA versus Wemby. There's so much going in America sports-wise. That's the only way it becomes an American World Cup because most of the people right now don't know who Mauricio Pochettino is.
Brilliant stuff, Brian. Thank you so much to you. As always, the brilliant Brian T. Smith. Check out his work at talksport.com and across social media, etc. as well. Does fine work. Master, let me tell you about a story that has just trickled across my desk from TalkSport. This week, Max Dowman became the youngest ever Premier League winner. Right? I think he was like 50, 60, 70 days younger than Phil Foden when he won it. I mean, it's one of those classic things. You have to make 5 appearances to count as a Premier League winner. He made literally 5. He's only played 91 minutes total. He was like that
a beautiful goal against Everton.
That 5 games includes like a 2-minute sub appearance against Liverpool in August or something. Like a little bit of it is nonsense.
He deserved it.
He missed training this week, and there was some speculation he'd start this weekend. Right? What a great thing. Also, 16, can't drink. Probably good to have him starting on Sunday because there's a few of those other players who have been enjoying themselves since Wednesday.
Nice little pop.
He wasn't in training, and a lot of people were questioning whether he was going to make the team on Sunday. He wasn't in training because he was sitting his GCSE exams today, essentially his SATs, and that's why he didn't train for Sunday.
He's going to university?
Yeah, maybe. Who knows? Like, I just thought that was sensational.
How wholesome.
It is weird. It is nuts that we are going, youngest Premier League winner ever. It's like, okay, let's calm down. He had 1 goal and played a few sub appearances.
Hey, he had a huge goal. He had a huge goal against Everton. So much so.
Are you taking him to the World Cup?
The following match, I bought a Max Dowman scarf outside the Emirates. I was delighted. I was elated. I want to support the kids. I want to support the youth of England. Now that I'm finally supporting the youth of England, seeing the beautiful talent, Maslow, Skelly, Max Dowman, just some great kids coming up through the infrastructure, through the pipeline, through the development process. Well done, lads. Well done.
See, I'm still giving him a little Arsenal flowers. I'm just,
tiny bit.
We're trickling it in. We're giving him some love here, petal by petal, indeed. That's exactly
brick by brick.
Yeah. Congratulations, mate. Well done. I don't think I've said it on air.
Thank you.
Pleased for you.
Also, before we go to break, did you love how your prayer just went so south? Where, yes, you have something at
Hey, Spurs lost, so...
Yeah, they did,
so
yes.
There was some drama for the weekend.
There is some drama.
The one thing I really didn't want to happen of all the things that happened.
Yes, it best case scenario prayer that you provided for me. So I'm hoping tomorrow that you call out the football gods once again and work up your magic and...
Am I a curse? Is that the question?
No.
Am I whatever I wish for will never come true?
You are not
all
Danhausen.
Of this is coming home numbers.
You are not Danhausen. You are cursed. You are not Danhausen. You don't have to worry about...
No, I'm suggesting I'm the cursed one. I'm the one that maybe Danhausen has focused it on.
Maybe we should bring on Danhausen and curse you then.
Listen, Paris Saint-Germain, just to make my life easier. Please.
We got plenty of time. Why are we what did Sade say? Cherish the day. Let's cherish today, shall we?
He's singing. Can we stop now?
Shall we now?
Amazing story coming out of The Guardian yesterday.
I love how Sam Hermier's singing.
MLS, Let's get out of here. Go. MLS are considering, attempting to bring back, they did try this once before, bringing in a stop clock situation to manage football. We saw the last World Cup. These huge, long... ridiculous rambling added on times. Is this the solution? Are we going to let the Americans dictate what happens in football? In our sport?
The rest of the world.
Actually going to happen?
Like we do with the rest of the world, baby.
Pablo Mara joins us next.
Come on.
Around here, we only use the F word.
talkSPORT presents
the S word.
talkSPORT presents
The S Word.
high energy exchanges, fiery fan reactions, and the biggest football debate.
The S Word.
From talkSPORT.
You are watching the S Word from talkSPORT on the S Word YouTube channel, or from talkSPORT as well. I'm Jean Noelsi, what a great name that is, asks, why New Jersey? Because no one wants to go to your backwater towns like Arlington and Kansas City. Respectfully. Didn't feel very respectful, Jean, I'm not going to lie.
Okay, as if East Rutherford is any better. Have you been there before? New Jersey stinks.
Hey, look, I love the boss. I love Meadowlands. I'm all for going to see Springsteen at that stadium. I'll do it.
It takes you 3 hours to get there.
Final there.
And it takes you 3 hours to leave. So I was there for Chelsea Palmeiras semifinal. It was an awful experience. Don't start with me.
Honestly, I was there for WrestleMania, and it was so thankful that because I was there as media, we got to take media buses out of there. But I saw fans who were there who were queuing for that train for 3-4 hours after the event had finished. When you've already been at the old WrestleMania when it was one night as well, you've been there for like 6 or 7 hours. That is brutal.
It's a 12-hour day. Good luck.
Anyway,
I will not be at that.
We're really positive about the World Cup.
I am.
It's going to be great.
It's going to be the biggest World Cup of all time.
Will it be the greatest? We will be here every day, Monday to Friday, and then during the World Cup, 7 days a week on the S Word for you, from 8 till 10 Eastern, 1 till 3 here in the UK, reacting to every single game, previewing, and all the big news stories from domestic football as well. And we'll turn our attention to MLS. We haven't done a bit of MLS in a little while, and it's a fascinating article that came out in The Guardian this week, where we'll be asking the question, should referees stop the game every time that there's a stoppage in play? Well, I'm delighted to say that joining the show, now US soccer reporter for The Guardian, written this article, Pablo. How are you, my friend Pablo Mara?
I'm good. How are you guys doing? I'm wondering, after hearing all this banter, whether I'm even allowed to be on the shows in America. But, you know.
100%. You are absolutely. If there's anyone that is more worthy of being on the show, it is Pablo Maurer. The insight and knowledge that he is a Wikipedia guru when it comes to the history of U.S. soccer. There's nobody better to be on the show.
We are all for
appreciate it, yeah.
The brilliant US soccer fans. There is so many, like all the fans we've been having on the show have been wonderful. A bit more skeptical about the setup for the World Cup, but I think when we get there, when it happens, when there's football being played on the pitch, and hopefully USMNT are maybe winning a first knockout game in 20 odd years, then suddenly we'll be right there and into it.
Yeah, I'm not holding my breath. We'll see what happens. Yeah.
Pablo, tell us about this piece you've done for The Guardian, because it definitely caught my eye in a very English football fan. Why are you trying to change the rules? What's happening here? Not on my lawn, not in my backyard kind of way. But talk to us a little bit about what's been proposed here.
Yeah, I mean, it is one of those things. MLS is, careful with the word proposed, I would say, just because they're still sort of in the exploratory phase of things, right? But the idea being that MLS, is in conversation with IFAB about the idea of maybe trialing a stopped clock. I mean, I think you alluded to it in the open, when MLS was founded in 1996, they used some iteration of that, obviously clock that stops you when the ball goes out of play, foul, throw in, corner kick, whatever. Back then it was a clock that counted down from 45 to 0. That is not something that would return. Any of what's being discussed right now by MLS would be potentially a 90-minute stop clock, or even a 60-minute stop clock, which is something that IFAB has kind of batted around before. I am struck, so two things. A, if MLS were to even get permission to do this, they would try it out in MLS Next Pro, which is their developmentally before put it in the first division. And B, I just don't know it'll happen, and I think it's because it's something you just said. I think like the idea of a 90-minute football match is something that's like almost sacrosanct. It would seem like such a fundamental change to the game, but who knows? There have been other fundamental changes that happened that probably neither of us saw coming. So,
and one of them being from this last World Cup, the 12-minute, 15-minute stoppage times at the end of each half that essentially can produce its own half in itself. It's just basically trying to mitigate that problem, which I'm sure we'll see once again this summer.
Yeah, I mean, I do think their hearts are in the right place, is what I would say. And I do think it would go a long way towards eliminating time wasting. But the other thing too is, and again, it was alluded to in the open, where it's like my English football purist brain is upset at this. I mean, I wrote an article about this years ago for The Athletic. They're just like, what if I told you that like the back pass rule, which people think came along in the early 90s after the 90 World Cup, like the North American Soccer League was tinkering with that in like the early 80s, like the use of substitutes in matches. That first happened in America in the 1920s and 30s. All sorts of stuff, kind of emanates out of America. It's just when Americans kind of toy with rules like that, it is very much dead on arrival. It takes I don't know, like a British person doing it, 10 years later, taking credit for it.
Typical.
That is the question, right? I joked about it in the intro, but there will be people who will have read that article, who will get in the comments, who will have bristled about it and will go, Americans are trying to change our sport. What on earth are they doing? Whereas actually, Master will bang the table for it. Why wouldn't you trial it in a nation like that where actually maybe they're willing to be a bit more forward thinking about it?
Yeah, for sure. And I mean, there are two new rules for this World Cup that literally started at MLS Next Pro, just like this, stop clock one would be the off-field treatment rule, the one that says that, if you're not up off the ground within 15 seconds, you have to come off the field for 2 minutes, or if you're an injured player. There's obviously exceptions to that for head injuries, that sort of stuff. And then the timed substitution rule where you have to be off the field in 10 seconds. Both those things were trialed in MLS Next Pro, and the league, executives of the league created those rules. And by all accounts, they're like wildly successful. I mean, just completely eliminated those two issues and were pretty quickly adopted by IFAB, So, yeah, I mean, as far as the stopped clock goes, it just seems like almost a bridge too far. I think there are probably other little things they could do. I mean, you could have a clock in stadium for stoppage time that runs as it goes on after it's displayed. You could use a stopped clock during stoppage time, for example. There's like little things to trim around the edges, but I think executives at MLS are like, why we've been doing all these sort of half measure and stopgap things. Why not just stop the clock, But
I feel like, I have been. I like the theory behind testing something like this, right? I totally understand it, and I hated those really long stoppage times. But there is the part of me that is concerned. Forget the sacrosanct 90-minute thing. I think nothing should be sacrosanct if it's going to improve the quality of football. But there is the part of me that's like, do we lose the fact that we don't know how long injury time is, that you get that real tension in the stadium, that you get one set of fans whistling, that you get that kind of it's like nonsense. There's so many dramatic moments that have happened in injury time in the
Everyone
past.
Complains
and I think
about
part
them
of
too.
it is, I think part of it is the not knowing that is what the situation is that the, Man City having the whistle blown after 97 minutes the other night and then pointing to the fact that, there was a goal and a substitution in that time. Surely we should have, I just feel
That's
like
good for the game.
I feel there are ways that you could deal with this that involve, like you say, limiting how long it takes for somebody to come off the field. If you go down with an injury and it's potentially somebody doing it to order to stop the clock and slow things down, having some kind of penalty for doing so. Like, it feels like you can stick within the rules of the current game and get rid of that gamesmanship without needing to overhaul it entirely.
Yeah, I mean, it would take nothing more than maybe instructing referees to just be much stricter about adding time and other stuff, But what I would say is, it's funny. I'm struck it's kind of a direct analog between what you're talking about the sort of like, it's like a subjective kind of like, oh, but the mystery and the blah blah blah. It's like, people can make the same argument. I'd make it about VAR, which
trust me, you're preaching to the choir on that one after the last.
Which I hate, and it's like, to me, it's like if you're a soccer fan, football fan, whatever you want to say, you got to like. I would rather accept some degree of uncertainty and human error as a fundamental part of the game than insist that like everything has to be perfect and fair and just. Like, my thing is always, sports mirror life, right? And life's not fair, and people get hosed all the time in real life. I don't know why like a football pitch is the one place where it's like, no, like every single outcome has to be exactly just. I think it's one of those things. Are you willing to tinker with sort of the more kind of out there elements of the game that aren't almost fact-based? They're more about like feelings or whatever else, and it's very much the same argument with this. But I will say, man, the stoppage time thing has always driven me insane. I mean, it is, if you're gonna do it, I think the ref needs to literally just to the second add on, but it's, I don't know.
Yeah, but how do you do that? Is it because realistically the ball is out of play 30 to 35 minutes of a game, and so do you only include goal kicks, not throw-ins? Do you only include when it's a goal scored? Do you only include substitutions? Like, it becomes a real like.
I mean, I will say, so the way it was done in the NASL back in the 70s and early on in MLS is the ref, you know, when he wanted the clock stop would, I mean, I think at the NASL it was this sign, you know, cross your arms over your head kind of deal. And then the clock would stop. And it didn't always stop. For example, it didn't stop on like every throw. And if the ball goes out of play and, you know, a player takes, you know, like 7-8 seconds to throw the ball back in, the clock continues to run. Even that creates issues, though, because even that is subjective. Then you have teams probably complaining, well, what, they take like 12 seconds, you didn't stop the clock, you know, like there's really no way to...
It's kind of like VAR. It's another way to take some of the flow out of the game. It's another way that just takes that.
It's more like goal-like technology.
It's another way to make it more robotic. It's another way.
It gives you a more linear approach to stopping this clock. If you set out there and say, hey, 5 seconds, after 5 seconds, if the ball's not thrown in, we stop the clock. There's very clear and easy ways to fix this, because let's be honest, every single fan complains about time wasting, and even at the Arsenal match I was at with Burnley, where David Raya is down for 2 minutes and they add an additional 2 minutes afterwards, and no one knows when this game is actually going to end. And sure, that creates great suspense, but I'd rather know when the game ends.
Master, I feel what you're saying. On the other hand, there exist already rules. For example, where the goalkeeper has to put the ball in play within 8 seconds, right? Or it's a turnover, and like how frequently is that ever even called? And like if you watch soccer, it's like I just don't. I feel like, and I might be wrong, I just sit there with a stopwatch, but I feel like almost every single time the goalkeeper handles the ball, he has it for longer than 8 seconds. So I think you can, even when you have sort of clear-cut rules, at the end of the day, it's also up to human beings, in this case the officials, to enforce those rules. You know?
That was a bit hard because the yellow cards and all the implications towards that, the refs have been a bit lenient. But if you straight up just say, after 5 seconds, if the ball's not thrown in, then cool, you can waste as much time as you want to. It's not going to make any difference.
I'm gonna say something that might even be more like like sacrilegious or American. I mean, the technology exists to where they could probably stop the clock. Like when I'm sure they could put a tiny RFID thing in the ball or something, like when it goes over the end line, the touch line, the sideline, whatever, like the clock stops. You know, I don't know, like why even have the ref keep time at all? I guess
You can't.
I mean, it is an American sports thing. At this point, we have robots calling balls and strikes, and at this point, we have robots calling balls and strikes in the MLB, and it seems to work pretty well. I agree.
You could never keep 90 minutes if you were doing it every time it went out of play, because games would take 2.5-3 hours. I mean, I already, as a fan of the NFL, dealing with English sports fans telling me that game is 2-stop start. If you tried to do something like that in football, there'd be riots on the streets.
The point, it already does.
Yeah.
You add 15 minutes at the end of each stoppage time.
That happened in the last World Cup because they made a big focus about it. And actually, it's really interesting that
cooling breaks, all this stuff. It's going to be
Pablo actually raised a really interesting point, which was the 8 seconds with the goalkeeper. Right, this is a thing that happens certainly in the Premier League, and I'm sure across world football. Is whether it's IFAB or it's the PGMOL, whoever it is, they'll go, this season we're really going to focus on encroachment in the box on penalties, and for 3 weeks you see every penalty that's taken gets retaken because they show on the replay somebody's inched into the box, and they're like, this year we're really going to crack down on goalkeepers. And the last World Cup they went, we're sick of time wasting, so we're going to add loads of time on. And what happened was, in the group, their idea was, we're going to do that, and then people won't want a time waste because they won't want 15 minutes added on afterwards. And what actually happened is, we got out of the group stages, we got in the knockout stages, and suddenly we were seeing extra time being, maybe it was 7 minutes instead of 5 minutes, but the 15 minutes and the 12 minutes went away because they realised that it was ruining the on-field product, it was ruining the TV product. Like, how is it
ruining how is it ruining the product? I liked it.
Hour-long halves.
It's free soccer. It's free soccer.
Yeah, but hour-long halves, you're not getting quality. You're getting quantity. You're getting teams slowing the game down, particularly in this World Cup, which is going to be humid, hot, like difficult in many of the conditions. If you're suddenly playing 60-minute halves because you're adding 12, 15 minutes onto each game, I would argue the overall quality of those games is going to be lower because you're just going to see a lot of possession football and no one actually playing direct and attacking. It's just going to be, right, calm it down. So we've still got to play 20 minutes of this half and we've already been out here for 40 minutes.
Yeah. I mean, this is America and we're about to have a World Cup here and we're all about, I think, quantity over quality. So we'll see what happens.
One last question for you before you go, Pablo. When you talk about the rules that have been changed that have been started by Americans. I mean, you talk about the amount of American investors now, the billionaires that are involved, injecting money into a lot of these clubs. Why don't Americans get more credit for what they're doing to the game?
I mean, like I said, it's the general sort of sports consuming public in America has never considered soccer seriously until the past couple of decades, right? And I think the rest of sort of the global sports community has never considered America to be a country that consumes soccer. So I mean, I think the rule change thing is a byproduct of that. I would say also, Americans spent, the history of American soccer up until maybe the past 15 years is just full of a bunch of investors being like, how can we Americanize this? The game is too low scoring. The game, X, Y, and Z thing. We need shootouts. We need cheerleaders. We need X, Y, and Z thing. And I do think what they missed fundamentally was that most people who would, want to watch the game in the United States, even if it's an American soccer match, want to watch the global version of it.
Mm-hmm.
They don't want to watch something that's wildly different. People have only recently figured that. I don't think that it's any coincidence that now these rule changes, like the ones you just saw adopted, for this World Cup and whatnot, I don't think it's a coincidence that now IFAB, FIFA, maybe the rest of the global community is maybe taking ideas that come out of America a little bit more seriously, because America is taking its soccer, football, whatever to say, more seriously. But I will say, I had a conversation about this yesterday with a friend, and I said, yeah, the stop clock thing, it almost like, look, I gotta be real with you. I think it's a good idea. I think if they can find a way to implement it correctly, I'm all for it. I have concerns that they'd find a way to implement it correctly, for sure. Which is, by the way, that's why you trial it in a lower division and stuff before it, even comes to MLS, and then before it goes global. But I will say that, having this conversation yesterday, I was like, yeah, I almost get the sense that MLS is getting a little big for its britches in terms. It's like, oh, we got these two kind of small but fundamental rule changes approved. What else can we do? Oh, let's do a stop clock, or let's
take a punt. That's a big one.
It is, man. It's that's what I said. I personally think it won't happen for one reason alone, and it's because a 90-minute match is absolutely considered fundamental to the identity of the game, period. It's not like, this, you might as well make the ball square in a way. I don't know. I can't see it happening. But to be clear, I think it's a good idea. I think it would completely almost eliminate the simulation and time wasting and stuff like that almost overnight, but I don't think it's going to happen.
Paolo, brilliant stuff from you. Thank you so much. Great article. Really appreciate your time. Brilliant stuff. Pablo Mauro joining the show. Woo! Soccer reporter from The Guardian. I just, nice little Americanism for you, giving some clapping and some whooping and some hollering at the end. There is an interesting conversation around this, right? And I know we need to get to Stu Holden, but it comes back to Rory Jennings getting angry about the halftime show last week on talkSPORT, because, it's going to now mean that halftime's 25 minutes instead of 15 minutes, so that BTS and Madonna and everyone else can get out there.
I'll be over there saying Shakira, whoever it is, and he will be too.
Yeah, I think there will be a certain amount of Americanism which is embraced in this World Cup. We love it when a World Cup takes on the identity, and certainly with Mexico, and certainly with Canada. Maybe we'll have referees wearing double denim tracksuits and Mountie hats and things I have Canadian family. I'm allowed to say these things, right? But the point is that there will be a certain amount of it allowed. There will be a certain amount of the rah-rah and the other.
I need all of it.
If they kept the, single-player introductions from the Club World Cup, for example, and had halftime shows, and I think there will be a certain point where there is a pushback from the old school, and that's what we're here to address.
We will still have our blueprint on this World Cup. Our fingerprints will be on this World Cup.
You're watching the S Word from talkSPORT, and talking of fingerprints all over the World Cup, Stu Holden is going to be everywhere over this World Cup. The former USMNT and Bolton midfielder is part of Fox Soccer's coverage. We'll be partnering with them throughout this World Cup, getting a lot of their talent on, and Stu Holden joins us up next after they announced their sensational roster for the World Cup earlier today.
From kickoff to the full-time whistle, talkSPORT presents the S Word. talkSPORT presents
The S Word.
Listen again and subscribe
Wherever you get your podcasts.
and on the talkSPORT USA YouTube channel.
Welcome back to the S Word from talkSPORT. Final part of the show. Brilliant show so far today, if I do say so myself. It's been lovely to be back. We've been celebrating Villa. We've been building a statue to Unai Emery.
And very red, white, and blue, baby.
And we've been getting very American today. We talked with Paulo Mauro. We talked about the idea of the stop clock being introduced in MLS and whether that could be adopted in world football. Brian T. Smith joined us on that Mauricio Pochettino news. And now, after we announced our World Cup roster today, it must be said, the talkSPORT one is looking absolutely sensational. On talkSPORT, you are not only going to be getting World Cup winners like Emmanuel Petit, you're not only going to be getting former England players like Kyle Walker, who was only in the squad just as recently as the last tournament. You're also getting two current Premier League managers, Hutzler and David Moyes, West Ham legend. So I just did that just to pop the boys in the other room.
Sorry, Sam.
Sorry, Sam. Apologies. So we've got a sensational roster, but you know who else does? Our friends at Fox Soccer, who we'll be partnering with throughout this World Cup. And I'm delighted to say that joining us now, the former US MNT midfielder, and I'm told a man who's looking pretty suave. Stu Holden joins the show. There he is. Look at that. Stu Holden putting us to absolute shame.
I got to get dressed for the occasion. You know, come on.
As you always do.
Big show, big vibe, big suit. Let's go.
What a guy. What a guy. Stu, thank you so much for joining us. And it is today you guys are kind of doing the full big announcement, the big media day, loads of people getting involved. And we've been talking a lot today about whether the excitement is getting there in the US. Yeah, are you feeling it now that you guys are doing the media? Are you starting to feel like that it's starting to bubble up that the World Cup is coming?
Oh yeah, like I think the real sign is when you start to walk into any store in the United States now, you see the merch everywhere. So you've got Mexico jerseys, US jerseys, Canada. They're rolling out the billboards. You're seeing an ad campaign coming out here every other day now from big brands featuring big stars and big players. So, any talk, and look, I see all this stuff about tickets and hotels and, they're under capacity. Look, this happens every single World Cup. It happened in Russia. It happened in Qatar. It's happening here now. Once that tournament starts, the next couple of weeks, you're going to get this huge influx of visitors. And this country is going to be hit by a tidal wave of soccer or football, lads. It's going to hit us and right in the face. And I can't wait, man. It's going to be awesome.
No, you call it soccer. It's all right. We got some Americans on the set too.
Where's the buzzer?
Soccer,
you don't use the S word around here, only the F word. Thank you very much.
Because guess who started? It was them. Anyways, Stu, great talking to you. Always enjoy when you and John Strong are on the call. Of course, you've called so many World Cups, so many international events, including, of course, the World Cup final last in 2022. But being able to call the World Cup here in your own backyard, what does that mean for you? And what are you hoping comes out of this World Cup for this great nation of ours?
Yeah, it's crazy. I know we've got a British audience as well as, American audience. And look, the sport in this country has come a long way. The last time we hosted the Men's World Cup was 1994. We didn't have a men's professional league. We didn't have a women's professional league. They were handing out cards at the stadiums to tell people what a goal kick and a corner kick and, how many points you got for a goal. You get 1 point for a goal. So to think where the sport is now and to think how many people will be watching us this summer, it's crazy. I don't think I'm going to be able to contextualize it truly until the end of this tournament. But to think that I have two young kids, 10-year-old and 5-year-old, I want them to go to as many games as they possibly can. I also want them to consume as many games as they can over on TV, because we're going to birth the next generation of soccer fan. Like the game in our country is still so young compared to the rest of the world. And I think there's this constant desire. We're exceptionalists in America, right? We think we're the best at absolutely everything. And a lot of sports we are, but in soccer on the men's side, we're not. But the sport has grown in a long way. And I think thinking about now that next generation that's going to be exposed to a tournament on this stage, this is going to be bigger, the biggest sporting event the planet has ever seen, and certainly the biggest media event here. This country is going to go crazy for it. And my hope is that now we take that momentum after the fact. But my role, I don't know. I feel like I have a huge responsibility to share this game and share my experiences to hopefully in an entertaining way that we rope in those people and bring them into the soccer tent in this side of the pond.
I love that you put into context what it was like in 1994, because I try to explain to a lot of people growing up, not having cable, growing up in poverty. It wasn't until 1998 that every single World Cup was broadcasted in English. But even then, for someone like me that didn't have cable, I had to watch it in Spanish. And so the accessibility, and you talk about the accessibility of club play and all these other international tournaments, it was so difficult just being able to watch these games. How far have we come in that, and how has that contributed to the accessibility of the sport?
Look, I actually hear this from a lot of my friends in the UK. They say, hey, man, you get more games of the Premier League in the US than we do here in the UK, because we can watch games from morning till night. And that's kind of the beauty now in this country, is you can flip the TV on a Saturday morning and you can watch Premier League, La Liga, Bundesliga, Serie A, and then you've got MLS throughout the night. But now what we're doing with the World Cup, certainly at Fox, is we're going to have 70 games on over the air for free TV. That's unprecedented. Yeah, we've never had that. Seriously. I mean, yeah, it's awesome. That's
we're clapping and we're saying it's awesome, but it is a big thing, because to not push back a little bit, but just to raise that, I think there have been missed opportunities with this. MLS staying behind a paywall this season when you're going to be getting so much more attention on the sport. The fact that you know this better than anyone, Stuart, as a former professional, it's the world sport. It's a sport that guys can go out and play on any grass surface, or not even, as long as they've got a ball and some jumpers for goalposts to make it really cheesy and old school English. Have there been missed opportunities? And the fact that Fox are doing this is obviously great, but does America need to make sure that it really capitalizes on this?
Yeah, I think that's the hard thing to know, right? Like, I don't think we knew in '94 by starting a professional league that with the impact that it would have and the position it would be in now. Those are some of my best memories that you're talking about there. When I was just a young kid in Scotland, and then in the US, it's with your buddies and you throw down the T-shirts and you make 2 goals and you just played football. I think for our country to be in a place that we're realistically talking about, that we can catch up with the rest of the world on the men's side, it has to have that cultural moment where all the kids dream of playing soccer, and that they can see it within touching distance, that now they can grow up and dream of making millions and driving their Lamborghinis and Ferraris, and that can come through soccer. Previously, that was only NFL, basketball, and we lose a lot of our good athletes to those other sports. We have 300+ million people in this country. The second that now, you get 75-80% of kids that say, I really have an opportunity and a pathway to play soccer, because now there's investment, now there's fields to play. We don't have that. I mean, I live in LA now, guys, and one of the field spaces is a big issue for West Side Los Angeles. There's nowhere for these kids to play. My kids don't get to play pickup soccer unless it's on the playground at school. And when we can get to that point, you see basketball hoops, you see American football, grass fields, and it's a big question mark that I'm not sure I have the answer to yet. My hope is that happens. There's going to be more attention on the sport than ever before. But still, there's some people saying, look, the World Cup's the circus. It's going to come to town and then it's going to leave. And what are we left with? We're left with people saying, well, it's still the world sport. It's not really an American sport. No, we have a very robust soccer culture in this country. And I hope that we carry that momentum and we push it forward. And those soccer fans that we make this summer, we keep those fans for the rest of their sports journey.
We absolutely will. I'm 100% positive and confident that this will continue to push momentum and take it to another level. And a big hope that we need for this to have this gigantic rocket ship moment is the U.S. men's national team. We need a good outing from them in this tournament, but I know. I was very optimistic and hopeful when Pochettino was first brought on, but I don't know if it's the performances or his messaging, whatever the case may be. I'm not as optimistic right now. Can you give me some hope? How will we fare in this World Cup?
Listen, you're starting to turn way too English. You're getting too pessimistic. The English go into every turn.
If you're this close to me all day, every day, the pessimism just seeps into your pores.
I know. Listen, I lived there for a long time, guys. I know it. The sun's out, it's too hot. The rain's out, it's always raining.
Stu, honestly, it's like 20 degrees outside today, and I'm sweating.
It's 75 degrees, and they're complaining. I'm wearing a turtle crew neck.
Good. Yeah, I mean, English football's in dire straits. They've only been to a semifinal, and they got to the final of the Euros. But that's just the way they are. Look, when we talk about the U.S. national team, I don't know, like what's the realistic expectation for this team? This team has been dubbed the golden generation, but hasn't won anything. So I don't think we can even remotely say that term until they do something that nobody has ever done before. And I'm not feeling that confident about how far this team can go right now. There's a lot of what ifs. And if the what ifs are Pulisic's playing well, McKennie's playing well, Chris Richards is healthy, Balogun's scoring goals. This team can make a quarterfinal. That's not out of the realm of possibilities. But we haven't, in the March window, we get a beat down from Portugal and Belgium. We're going to play Germany and Senegal coming up here in June. I want to come out of those games feeling good that this team can flip it on. But at the same time, like, these pre-match friendlies don't mean a lot, these pre-tournament friendlies, until that ball rolls. If the U.S. beats Paraguay day one, this team's going to the round of 16, 100%. If they struggle against Paraguay, I would pick them to go out in the round of 32. I think we get out of the group, no questions. But and then that part, it's really about momentum. We've seen this. Home World Cups do special things. 2002, South Korea. Morocco had a version of a Home World Cup in Qatar, being a Northern African team, and the amount of support they had and the amount of momentum. We can compete with the best teams on any given day. My hope is that Mauricio Pochettino understands we need to be pragmatic. We can't play toe-to-toe with the best teams in the world and expect to outpossess, outshoot, create chances. We have to be pragmatic about who we are. And if we do that, we can get to a quarterfinal.
Stuart, something we do on this show with regularity, but only because we've been going the last few weeks, we've had a lot of cup finals, etc., is encourage people to give a bit of a rallying cry. So before we let you go... this isn't a USMNT rallying cry. Huh? Stuart, you spent the last 4 years of your career here in England up in the wonderful town of Bolton. Bolton Wanderers are in the League One playoff final this Sunday. Are you going to be up at 8 a.m. watching it? And can you send a message to Steven Schumacher, to those Bolton players ahead of that game on Sunday? I need an American rallying cry from them for why they should go out there and get back to the championship.
Well, here's an even bigger plot twist for you. So my younger brother, he played for Stockport County. So we have family rivalry at stake here. All right, Bolton Wanderers, Steven Schumacher and the lads. This is our moment, okay? We've been close to promotion before. This is the year to get it done. The Wanderers fans are going to be turning up in big numbers to support you, and we believe. There is no pressure. Live in the moment. Feel the joy. It is a privilege to be in this position, and you are going to get the mighty Wanderers back up to the championship. There is no ifs, ands, or buts. There is no losing this game. There is only winning mentalities. There are only winners in that locker room, and the mighty Wanderers, we're on our way back to the championship. Come on, the lads. Come on, Bolton. Come on, you Super Whites.
And you know what happens then if you do win on Saturday? Tottenham away, ole, ole. Tottenham away, ole, ole.
That's too soon, boys. Too soon. Come on. I've got too many Spurs fans, buddies. West Ham's going down, boys. West Ham's going down.
Our producer Sam.
Come on, Stu. Absolutely love it. Stu Holden, brilliant stuff from you.
USA.
Thank you for joining us today. Sensational stuff. Stu's got some brilliant coverage, and I'm sure we'll be speaking to him again during this tournament tomorrow. We've got up to the final weekend of the Premier League. We've got the England squad announcement, and we're going to have a fan face-off between those relegated teams. Is it going to be Tottenham away, ole, ole? Is it going to be West Ham? All coming for you on the S Word tomorrow from 8 a.m. Eastern.
Peace.
Big name reaction from both sides of the pond. The S Word from talkSPORT.